Lesson 4, Facilitating Difficult Conversations. Having difficult conversations in the workplace is necessary to build an inclusive work environment where multiple voices are heard and honored. I will share with you some tangible strategies for engaging in those difficult conversations and some personality traits that I believe a facilitator needs to lead a difficult yet productive conversation. As a heads up, you'll need a partner for an activity later on in this lesson. What is your emotional intelligence level? I can't speak enough about emotional intelligence. It is so critical. Emotional intelligence is the ability to detect and regulate one's emotions, especially in relation to others. They have high self-awareness and are observant of other people's feelings and behaviors. People with high emotional intelligence, or EQ, understand that their values, beliefs, and experiences impact how they make decisions and recognize those decisions impact others. According to Travis Bradberry and Gene Greaves, emotional intelligence has 4 major components: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Self-awareness means you accurately perceive your own emotions in the moment and understand your tendencies in various situations. Social awareness means you can pick up on the emotions of others and understand what's going on with them. You do this through listening and observing. Self-management means you use your emotional awareness to stay flexible and direct your behavior appropriately for the situation. As a result, you're able to navigate situations of uncertainty as you explore your emotions and your options for reaction. Relationship management is when you can use the awareness of your own emotions and those of others to determine appropriate interactions for productive engagements with others. As a result, you can build a bond over time because you can better understand people and treat them well based on your history with them. Activity. Authors Travis Bradberry and Gene Greaves wrote Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I encourage you to read it. In the meantime, complete the Emotional Intelligence Questionnaire. Read the introduction, mark your score connected to the statements, tally your scores, calculate them, then interpret the outcome. Your emotional intelligence score will be categorized based on self-awareness, managing emotions, motivating oneself, empathy, and social skill. You can determine your competency based on how strong you are in these areas to prioritize the need to strengthen these emotional competencies. Hold on to your results and refer to them constantly as you think through how you manage engagements with peers, your direct reports, and external stakeholders. Pause the video, complete the activity, then rejoin me. Develop your reflective listening skills. Hearing is passive. We hear the air conditioner running or people honking their horns outside, but we aren't listening to those sounds. Listening requires focus and attention. Reflective listening is a type of listening that requires close attention to the person communicating. The focus is listening to understand and ensure that the person is understood. Activity. Part of having a difficult conversation is ensuring that each person feels heard. A way to verify if you listen to the person correctly is to paraphrase their statement in your own words and ask if you summarize them correctly. For this activity, I want you to practice reflective listening. You'll need a partner for this. Step 1. Ask your partner to talk about a problem they have or a challenge they're attempting to address. It doesn't matter what it is. Step 2. Listen for your partner's core message. What is the challenge or problem they have? Step 3. Restate your partner's problem or challenge in your own words. You can use any of the following sentences. What I heard you say was, you feel blank because blank. Or, sounds like you are, insert the emotion or feeling, about, insert the topic or thought. What's important here is that you don't try to solve the problem. Don't agree or disagree. Don't take notes or offer an opinion. You are not here to solve their issue. You're here to listen to understand. Be sure to keep eye contact and don't interrupt. Give affirming mannerisms like nodding your head or sounds like an occasional uh-huh. Step 4. Ask your partner if you summarize their statements correctly. If they tell you that you didn't, that means you might have missed something. You can try to restate the core message again or ask your partner to share the problem or challenge with you once more. Then repeat steps 2 through 4 until your partner says you summarized their statements correctly. Pause the video, complete the activity, and then rejoin me. When doing inclusion work, sometimes we have to address misunderstandings and conflicts. The self-awareness that is part of emotional intelligence is critical when managing conflict. It is especially essential when that conflict involves criticism of you. Part of your self-awareness journey is knowing what your conflict management style is. Here are 5 general approaches to conflict: competing, collaborating, avoiding, accommodating, and compromising. Activity. Imagine you found yourself in a difficult conversation with a colleague in your organization. I want you to take a few moments to think about what your conflict management style might be. It's not definitive, and you probably do a little bit of all of these. However, there is a good chance that you lean more on one style than others. I'm going to share a few statements for each of the conflict management styles. I want you to indicate if this sounds like you by writing a check mark for each statement you agree with. Once you have read through the styles, circle the conflict management style with the most statements you agree with. Ready? Grab your workbook and something to write with. Competing is used when you need to take a firm stance until you get what you want. Statements for this section are the following. I argue my case with peers, colleagues, and coworkers to demonstrate the merits of the position I take. I am firm in my resolve when it comes to defending my side of the issue. I uphold my solutions to problems. Place a check mark next to each of the statements you agree with. That could be 1, 2, or all 3. Of course, it could also be none of them, and that's okay too. Now let's repeat this for the remaining styles. Collaborating is helpful when you want to create a win-win situation for everyone. Statements for this section include, I seek to investigate issues with others to find mutually acceptable solutions. I trade important information with others so that problems can be solved together. I seek to bring everyone's concerns out into the open to resolve disputes. Avoiding is used when you want to ignore the situation. Statements for this section are the following. I try to avoid being singled out, keeping conflict with others to myself. I avoid discussing my differences with others. I avoid hard feelings by keeping my disagreements with others to myself. Accommodating occurs when you set aside your wants or needs to center someone else. Here are the statements for that style. I attempt to meet the expectations of others. I try to accommodate the wishes of my peers and colleagues. I accept the recommendations of colleagues, peers, and coworkers. Compromising results in partially satisfying all parties. Everyone gives up and gets something. Statements from this section are the following. I try to reach compromises through negotiation. I compromise to reach solutions. I put forward middle positions to break deadlocks. Did you notice anything about yourself? What styles do you think you lean more towards when you're in a difficult conversation? None of these are bad or good in and of themselves. Each conflict management style can be used in different situations. For example, using competing as a conflict management style sometimes gets a bad rap, but it works really well if you need to stand for your rights. Other styles haven't worked or your care and safety is being compromised. Accommodating also is rarely looked at favorably, but it's beneficial if you're in a situation and you're wrong. As a result, you set aside your needs or wants to center the correct person. It is also helpful if the outcome doesn't matter or you need peace in the short term. Whatever your home-based style of conflict management is, increasing your self-awareness will let you know what your common responses to conflict tend to be. For example, if you want to avoid conflict, you're likely to withdraw from the conversation or avoid the topic altogether. Sometimes, people who practice avoidance minimize other people's concerns by making jokes or glossing over the issue. Sometimes, when we're in the middle of a difficult conversation, we experience anxiety, nervousness, fear, or feelings of inferiority. Sometimes we can blame ourselves and feel powerless and helpless amid challenges. This can cause frustration and confusion, maybe even hostility. We want to be aware of those responses to conflict within us to prepare ourselves for those conversations. Understanding your reactions to conflict is important because we want to be mindful of how it impacts others. How you wish to respond, your actual response, and your impact on others aren't always the same. Increasing your emotional intelligence will help you immensely in this area. In the meantime, here's a framework to work through tough conversations. It is not a script. You can shift and move this around to work for you, but it will take practice. Be gentle with yourself if things don't go the way you intended. Remember to tap into that courage. Sometimes it'll go well, and sometimes it won't. That's okay. You just keep working at it. Give yourself permission to not be perfect at it and be open to feedback regarding the process. First, it's wise to check your triggers. What are the words, phrases, or other conditions that take you out of your element? What heightens your emotions? What have people said or could say that makes you feel defensive, shut down, or want to leave the conversation? These are triggers that you want to acknowledge and be aware of. If you find yourself being triggered in a conversation, take a moment and breathe. Take some deep breaths in for 3, hold it for 4 counts, and let it out for 5 counts. This is a way for you to regulate yourself and remind your body that you are not being attacked. You are simply having a tough conversation. Second, ground the conversation. Ask the person or the people you're having the conversation with, what happened? This is a different question than what did you do? The first question is grounded in curiosity and is open-ended, while the second question is accusatory. When you ask the question, give all parties involved uninterrupted time to answer. Practice your reflective listening skills to ensure you understand what each person says. Third, identify the root of the issue. There are 4 common root issues to conflict. 1, facts. This is when there's a disagreement over something objective like data or specific kinds of information. 2, goals. This is when there is an inability to determine the pursued or prioritize objectives. 3. Methods. This is when there is a disagreement on accomplishing a goal or the ideal action to take. 4. Values. This root cause often occurs when someone in power has their personal beliefs informing their leadership decisions, not the mission, vision, and values of the organization. The fourth component of the framework for having difficult conversations is asking clarifying questions. These questions should help you better understand the root of the conflict. If the root of the disagreement is around facts, then you can ask what the information says they are referring to. What are some suggestions they have about how it is used or not in the decision-making process? If the root is a disagreement on goals, you can ask how the mission, vision, and values are included in the goals presented. Is everyone interpreting the mission, vision, and values of the organization in the same way? If not, where is the disconnect? If methods are the center of concern, you can ask if there is a disagreement because of a difference of opinion, or if there is information that can be shared to help justify one method over the other. Which stakeholders were considered or not based on the methods presented? Finally, if values are the challenge, then a question can be asked: who has the power to center their values over others? If the answer to the last question is you, part of the conflict is that you value something that compromises the organization's mission, vision, and values, or creates a hardship for your employees. That means you need to be prepared to hear that feedback. Remember your triggers and how you calm yourself. Also, remember that just because you're uncomfortable does not mean you are unsafe. Consider tapping into your vulnerability and share that this conversation is difficult for you. Explain that you are committed to getting to the root of the challenge and discussing potential solutions. Activity. Think of the current tough conversation that you need to have. Or imagine a difficult conversation that could happen. Do the pre-work. 1. Write down the ways you tend to react to conflict. You can use the conflict management styles I mentioned previously. What are some ways you lean into that conflict management style for productive conversations? What are some ways, other styles that you may not often utilize but could be helpful for a difficult conversation? 2. Write down the purpose of the conversation. It is not to rehash the past or discuss topics that are peripheral to the issue at hand. You should be able to write the purpose of the conversation in 1 or 2 simple sentences. 3. Know what you want to achieve. This is not a venting session. The purpose is to be solution-oriented. So you want to know if the outcome will be an immediate action, a short-term win, or long-term change. 4. Determine who needs to be present. This is key because you don't want to have people there simply as powerful figures in the room who have little to nothing to do with the conflict or the solution. This can be a form of administrative violence when people bring someone in higher power status to win the discussion. This does not foster inclusion or a healthy work relationship. I'm not including situations when you actually are in danger or you believe your safety will be compromised. Be clear on who can add to the conversation to get clarity and think through solutions and next steps. 5. Set a time and a place for the conversation. Share with the person or people that you want to have the conversation with them and determine when would be the best time for everyone involved. Determine a place where privacy will be honored. 6. Share with those who will be in conversation with you what materials they will need, such as emails or organizational policies that need to be referenced. 7, plan what you want to say, but it's not a script. You want to be prepared for the discussion, but reading from a document can come off as inauthentic and disingenuous. Remember, it's a conversation that is flexible in its trajectory, but the goal is to land in the place of resolution. 8, post-conversation communication. Everyone involved in the conversation should know what the outcome is and what the next steps are. This should be stated and agreed upon at the end of the conversation. As the leader, you shall follow up with this information through documented communication channels like email. This is to ensure that information can be easily referenced when people need to be reminded about their obligations. It also is an opportunity for creating accountability. Difficult conversations are precisely that, difficult. It's like working out. You don't go to the gym on the first day and pick up 100-pound weights and think you're going to be successful in lifting it 20 times. Some of us can do that, but I imagine very few of us can on our first try. Start small with lighter weights and work up to heavier weights. It's never easy. It just gets easier the more you do it. Complete the activity and module quiz. I'll see you in module 3.